All right, a happy Friday from the Pat's Interference Podcast, part of the tireless, tactical, and tender-hearted CLNS Media Network. It is just past 9:30 on Friday morning. It is good to be back with you. We have a jam-packed show, starting with a six-pack, not really nuggets or notes. It's not anything fun. It's more house cleaning. But when item number one starts with an exclusive interview with Rhamondre Stevenson, I think I probably have your attention because, good news, the 4-minute drills are back. This will be a weekly segment on our second episode of the week, right after we do a preview of every single game this season. It'll be a new player, mix of football questions, non-football questions. Got a good relationship with Rhamondre. He was great. Item number two, the injury report. Here is the latest. Christian Gonzalez, still doing nothing. He did not practice Monday, Wednesday, nor Thursday, which says to all of us, he's not going to play on Sunday. I talked about this a lot in the last episode with David Andrews. If you missed that, go back and listen for tens of reasons, but specifically that one, because I just want to reiterate again. Until there's hard reporting about why he's now sat for more than 5.5 weeks, all we know is that his recovery has not gone to plan. He could have pushed himself too hard. The team could have pushed him before he was ready. It could have been an inadvertent setback, not caused by either one of them, or he's afraid to hurt his hamstring again. I don't know. I know hamstrings are tricky. If this is a grade 2 hamstring strain, he's pretty much right on schedule. But Mike Vrabel basically said things have not gone to plan. That's all there is. An update, though, on the injury report as a whole. Will Campbell popped up yesterday with an ankle injury. Again, no reporting on this either from anyone. Forget me. As of 9:30. Vrabel will probably give us an update. He's doing these new post-practice press conferences on Friday. Bill would always do them in the morning. Same with Gerard. Post-practice is going to be great because if Vrabel does what he did in Tennessee, that means we get pretty much everything you want to know injury-wise Friday afternoon. So that should be like 2:30, 3 o'clock today. The ankle injury for Will Campbell, of course, could be a nothing burger. It could also be something serious. We don't know. What I would just advise you, though, is just do not raise the possibility that he might miss the game and affect his quarterback and coach on Twitter, because you will just get swarmed with people claiming that you are reporting or stoking fear, which is just, look, if I wanted to upset you guys, I do a lot more than acknowledge the obvious. So here's hoping Will plays. Obviously, his matchup against Max Crosby is something we're going to talk about here in a second with Dan Pizzuta. But that is the top of my mind today, looking at Will Campbell in practice, hearing from Mike Vrabel, and maybe even Will in the locker room. Number three, I am nearing a plan to go live on Monday nights with a guest for all of our film reviews. This will be the plan moving forward, so long as the season is going. Monday night film reviews, and then preview episodes Thursday or Friday. The last couple of years, we've not had a guest. And as much as we all love Andrew talks to himself and drinks alone, I am so excited to have this person on and go back and forth in the film. We might do play diagrams for the folks who watch live and then watch later on YouTube. Details still yet to be finalized, but look forward to that Monday night live coming up, like 4 days? Number four, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I forgot to remind you this the last couple of times, but all of our episodes are there. You get smaller breakout videos, everything you could want from this show and more. It's @_Andrew Callahan. Please subscribe if you have not. This is number five. If you are looking for tickets to Sunday's game, by the way, and you have not seen me post about this on Extra Blue Sky, I'm auctioning 2 tickets. They're corner end zone. They're courtesy of our guy, Nick Roy, who's been on the show, season ticket holder, who cannot make it. So he hit me up out of the goodness of his heart, says, hey, do you want to auction these off like we did last year for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society? I said, sure. So right now, the top bid for these 2 tickets, which are 20 rows up from the field in the corner of one end zone, which is a great view, by the way. Anyone who asks me where to sit, I always say somewhere between 15 to 25 if you're in the 100 level or 200 levels in the corner. The top bid right now, with all of the money going to Boston Children's Hospital, all of it, every single last penny, is $1,100. I know that's a lot of money, but I want you to consider you go to what should be an awesome football game and do a lot of good for kids who need it and hospitals that are facing some issues financially, given all the upheaval that's around us in the world outside of football. But the point is $1,100. The deadline is Saturday, 10 a.m. You can reply to me on X or Blue Sky. I posted on both. The highest bid will win. Once I get proof of receipt, I'll send the ticket out right now. $1,100, all money to Boston Children's. Let's wrap up the 6-pack. If you cannot outbid $1,100, which personally I cannot, you can find the cheapest possible seats over at Gametime. Gametime is the only marketplace with the lowest price guarantee. I used Gametime last weekend. I went to the Red Sox game. It was beautiful. It was Saturday, Labor Day weekend. And I waited And I waited and I waited and I looked at the app and boom, I pounced on tickets that had dropped below $50 20 minutes before first pitch. And this can be you with the Patriots. It could be BC. It could be wherever football is near you. Just go to Gametime. And this is how it works. You take all the guesswork out. You get all-in pricing, no pesky fees, everything right up front. You get your own seat views if you want to compare, like we just talked about, 200 level versus corner of the 100 level. You can see everything and learn everything that you want right there at the Gametime app. So download the Gametime app today, create an account, use code CLNS. Again, code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. All right, we are going to bring up our guest, Dan Pizzuta, NFL writer, 3-4-time guest here today. Hopefully, Dan, we do not have any spitting on this episode because this is all anyone's talking about Friday morning outside of this podcast. How are you, man?
Yeah, doing well. Try not to get ejected from this podcast before it starts. So if we do that, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, for sure. All right. People who have heard you before know you are deep into the numbers. You have an exceptionally well-rounded, reasonable view of football. I learn something every time that you and I talk. And if people are not following Dan, you are making a giant mistake. He is on Blue Sky. You will find content about teams all across the league. But of course, today we are going to concern ourselves just with two, Patriots and Raiders. So in this new format, subject to change for the preview episodes, I want to zoom all the way out every week about these games and ask a simple question. What is this game about? And you can take this any number of directions. This could be about the stakes, which will probably be more of like a late season thing with the playoffs. It could be about a player. It could be a coach. It could be something that we're learning or looking for. What is Patriots Raiders about to you from a more national perspective?
Yeah, this is about, and I think this is maybe the most intriguing game in this sense, is we don't really know what either of these teams are. I think. And I think like this is going to show us, and for the sake of a preview, that sucks because it's very hard to kind of figure out what these teams are actually going to do. But we don't really know on either side of the ball. Like we haven't really gotten concrete information about what either of these teams want to be or are going to try to be. For New England, like we kind of know what the offense is a little bit, but we haven't really seen that fully in practice. The defense is going to be a lot of questions, as you said, even now with the injuries, but kind of even what style they really want to play in game. And then for the Raiders, on the other side of it, we have absolutely no idea. Like we can project all that we want of what this offense could potentially be, and we're going to do that, but we don't know like what their initial plan is going to be. And the defense too is similar to New England in that it's a system that we're sort of familiar with, but we do have now a marriage of Pete Carroll and oh man, now I'm blanking. Patrick Graham. Yes. We have the marriage of those two kind of doing a lot of things together. So this is, I'm more intrigued for this game, just kind of plan wise of what these teams think they are and what they want to be. And this is the first time we're really going to get to see that.
It's a great call. And I think you can probably boil it all down to two words, right? Like problem solving, which is what week one is all about. I talked about this with Austin Hooper in a locker room here today. I go, this is year 10 for you. Like, do week ones ever get, more predictable? He goes, no, it's just human chess, man. Like every adjustment on the sideline is going to almost be like a playoff game because there will be more series to series than you typically find, mid-season, where there's a good sense of what the other team's identity is and how you can work around it or work to neutralize it. On the adjustment piece, Mike Vrabel has said repeatedly this week that they want to win the second half because citing, it's a 1-year sample, but it's a pretty good record. Teams that won the second half of games in week one last year were 12-4 overall. So that speaks to the adjustment piece. Number two, I just mentioned the word identity. That would be the second word I would use this, right? Because like you said, you're trying to establish who you want to be and how you're going to get there. And there's, I would say, more of a contrast in styles in Vegas, which makes it harder for the Patriots to prepare, not just in the, Seattle 3, which has come up a lot this week with Pete Carroll, and that's evolved. He hired Sean Desai late in his tenure with the Seahawks, but Patrick Graham has done a variety of different things.
Yeah.
It's also Chip Kelly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's been in college for 7 years, and the last time we saw him at the NFL going at breakneck speed and running, 7, 8, maybe 10 plays just over and over again, it's a different guy. But Pete Carroll went through offensive coordinators in a way that we've seen a little bit from Sean McDermott, because you just want to run the ball and play defense. And we haven't even talked about the Patriots having their own identity. So it's just to say that this is unpredictable, I think almost undersells it. This is, in my opinion, the most unpredictable season opener I've covered with the Patriots now in 8 years, and it might go to recent franchise history.
Yeah, I would agree in that. And just kind of, from a national perspective, looking at all the games, I feel like this is the most unpredictable game of where like there's so much different between these two teams. Like a lot of other teams, even if they've, changed coaches or quarterbacks or whatever, you can kind of still get a sense of like what they've been trying to do. This one is just like it could go so many different ways. And then the other thing is, even if it goes one way, like it might not be exactly what we think going forward, because I'm sure Patriots fans will remember last year they beat the Bengals in week 1, and this looked like an aggressive defense that was like able to tackle. Like that was my takeaway from there. They were like all the screens and things that were behind the line. The defensive backs were running out, and that just didn't happen for like the rest of the season. So also we're gonna find out something, but also we might not learn as much as we think we do coming out of week 1 too.
And I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure people in this podcast are absolutely sick, like in bed, thermometer sticking out, of me saying this is the most anticipated game on the schedule and the least important and the least telling. Like projecting based off of one game sample, generally not a good idea. But if you're going to do it in November and December, right? Not in the first week of September. So we all waited. And I'm going to tell you, whatever happens Sunday, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. And even after the next Sunday when they go to Miami, my 2-game sample is not going to say much, because the Patriots were this close to being 2-0 last year with arguably the worst head coach in the league. But enough about last year. All right, let's get into the matchup. Start with the Patriots offense against the Raiders defense. You mentioned Patrick Graham. This is a middling run defense last year. They were very multiple from a coverage standpoint, but their coverage talent really is among the worst in the league. So you go, okay, great. Like Drake May and the new receivers, Steph Diggs, Keyshawn Boutte will have some options. Max Crosby's in front of all those guys in coverage, and that's a big problem. Is Max Crosby the most obvious player in this matchup, the place that you start?
Oh yeah, it's my first question is like, what's the plan for Max Crosby? Is this offensive line one that's going to hold up now, and that will be potentially the biggest difference from the 2024 Patriots if they can. I think the interesting thing is, you talking about the Will Campbell injury. I wonder how much that's going to be tested, because Max Crosby is like an 80% over the right tackle, and not necessarily over the right tackle. He's usually like wide over the tight end, but he lines up on the left side of the defense, the right side of the offense most of the time. So that would be Morgan Moses, which I think if you're the Patriots, you might feel a little bit better about, just especially in week 1, for it being a veteran and not the rookie's first time. But he'll move around again. Still 80% of the time, there's still 20% of the time he's over on the other side. But if you can slow Max Crosby down and not let that defensive line completely derail what you want to do, I think you're already probably a little ahead of what you were last year.
Yeah, I agree. This is where the matchup starts, because he is the player on the field more than any other. And this even goes when we go to the other side of the ball, and it's Raiders offense versus the Patriots defense that can wreck the game, right? Like these are the guys that you devote time on the scout team to, and simulating and studying and trying to find answers for. And it's not just that he's a 4-time Pro Bowler and a guy who's a nuisance as a pass rusher. He's great against the run too. So this is a player that when you look at Josh McDaniels' history, obviously he's familiar with Max, coached him in Vegas for, a year and a half, whatever it was. He tends to throw everything at the elite guys. Max Crosby falls into that category. So we can look at the offensive line and go, that's great. And we'd be totally right. But I think in the same way that I've talked about the Patriots' protection for Drake May doesn't just fall on the 5 guys in front of him. It also, of course, involves the running back and blitz pickup. It involves Josh McDaniels with his play calling. And it involves Drake May protecting himself when he gets near a defender. Just fly, dude. Get out of bounds. And that, I think, is the way you have to approach this holistically, right? To solve Max Crosby, it's going to be Will Campbell and Morgan Moses. It'll be Hunter Henry throwing a shoulder, Trayvon Henderson stepping up, going over there, screens, misdirection. And sometimes you're just going to have to live with the fact it's not going to be good enough, because that's how good this dude is. Do you see any other, none of the problems are even close, but like defensively, guys or areas that you'd be worried about if you're the Patriots? Like we talk about problem solving. Where are the other problems?
Oh yeah, I think that's the thing. Like if you get past Max Crosby, I think you're doing all right. because I think he just kind of looked elsewhere. Like it's a decent group. The linebackers are better than you probably think, but again, nothing that's going to scare you. The cornerbacks, I think, is like that's what you're gonna want to test, right? Because
Yeah.
if you can, that's the whole thing of holding up against this against the defensive line is if you can do that. Eric Stokes is the number one corner here. You have
Well,
just
it's your guy, Darian Porter. Remember we did the
so
PrizePicks?
I was going to get there, but again, like I'm not sure how much he's going to play. It seems like he's going to be rotating with Caillou Kelly on the outside. That you have Darnay Holmes is going to be the starting nickel, which is just I think if you can test that, that's where you want to go. Probably throw deep because the safeties on this team aren't great either. So again, if you can hold, gives Drake May some of that pocket a little bit outside of some of the quick game. And I think what's really going to help them slow down the pass rush. If you have a couple of shots where you can hold up, I think that's where you're going to be able to take advantage of the secondary too.
Yeah, the only name you omitted, and I don't think, I don't want to say highly of him, but I think he's fine, is Jeremy Chin, right? Starting strong safety. He's a bigger body. Patriots have used multiple players so far in practice, including Kyle Duggar, that we passed off the scout team penny with the 11 on it, meaning, hey, it's your job to be Jeremy Chin today, to Charles Woods, who's a corner they just picked up from the Rams and is probably just going to be their starting gunner. But the point is, like, okay, it's Max Crosby and then everyone else. And it might even be Max Crosby, Jeremy Chin, and then like another drop down, because the linebackers you mentioned, old pal, Landon Roberts, some of the greatest quotes I've ever heard, wants to run through a motherfucker's face and is about this dark grind, which was never like fully explained, but like a dark place that he goes to, run first player. So I think there's vulnerability there over the middle of the field. And when I look at key battlegrounds, like you talked about, their corners and defensive backs, you can attack outside. I think there are spots over the middle. Pop Douglas is a place that I start to counteract this as a way to get the ball out quickly to neutralize Crosby, take advantage of those linebackers. And, if they want to put Jeremy Chin on him, great. It's just a bad fit there matchup wise for Vegas.
The coverage from last year has already in the middle has dropped because they don't have Robert Spillane anymore. So I think that is that middle of the field there when you're either working the secondary in the nickel or just trying to work those linebackers. And I think that's where like some of this screen game is going to come in too. Make these guys try to tackle. You get Travion Henderson. Like I think like if that's where he's going to become alive, you kind of have this screen game and it makes somebody make a tackle. And if you can make a guy miss, that's part of where it's going to be. I think like that's one of the areas too. I think there are a lot of different ways you can try to get around this. And if you're able to just not let that pressure completely disrupt what you're doing, I think there are definitely ways to exploit this defense.
So we haven't even talked about Stephon Diggs yet. It's been almost like, 5-6 minutes since we've done that. And part of it is the unknown. Again, you talk about week one, this goes to coaching philosophies and playing styles and game plans, but it also just goes to some players, in this case, a guy coming off a torn ACL. You haven't seen anything because he hasn't played in the preseason, but do you look at this and go even an 80% or throw whatever percent, I don't care, Stephon Diggs against Eric Stokes and Darian Porter, or whomever they're going to throw out there and rotate, is a viable matchup that you're looking to attack as well, in addition to Pop Douglas?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I'm really interested to see just kind of overall this season is Stephon Diggs playing more on the outside, which is where he's a much better player. I think he was better than given credit for in Houston before the injury,
Yes.
but he was still playing 46% of his snaps on the inside just because of how Houston's wide receiver room was built at that time. And I think just he was kind of the natural guy to move inside more. But I think if you put him more on the outside, so he had 1.33 yards per route run from the slot last year, but 2.38 out wide. So like that is more of the Stephon Diggs that you would think. So I think if he was playing more on the outside last year and we saw that more even before we got hurt, we'd still be thinking about him closer to the Stephon Diggs we had remembered previously. So if he can do that, and again, he was good. He was able to get open. I don't think that's necessarily going to lose what he's able to do. Right. I don't think the ACL is like, he was never a guy who was, completely running past cornerbacks or defensive backs. So I think it was so much of his movement and how he sold vertical routes. And really in Buffalo, it was he would sell this vertical and have the comebacks and everything off of that. That's how good he was. And I think like that's still going to be a part of his game. And I think that's how you can get him going a little bit with the timing. And so I really think that is going to be a big part of what they're able to do, and how much they're able to lean on it. I think is going to be real interesting in week 1.
And to your point, Steph Diggs had 3 catches and a touchdown against Christian Gonzalez and man-to-man coverage when they played the Texans here last year in mid-October, like right pre-ACL. So if the Patriots fans need a barometer for what that dude looked like, and I know everyone's high on him, and I'm just trying to pace expectations because, again, he's ahead of where he should be recovery-wise. That is the biggest development, but there's going to be rust to knock off. There's going to be chemistry to be developed with Drake May, and that's going to take time. The chemistry might be delayed slightly, not in a way that is necessarily a negative, but just by the fact that, hey, when you rotate receivers out wide, which I fully expect the Patriots to do, and have seen in practice, by the way, the first team period on Wednesday, as reporters are walking out, but some of us are looking sideways still at the field, had Stephon Diggs with the starting offense. Thursday, it was Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, and I believe it was Matt Collins. And Doug Hyde had a video of this the other day. So I think it's wise because the Patriots have absolutely loved what Kayshon Boutte's done this summer. And he's all but transformed his body. That's another ex-outside receiver who thrives in contested catch situations. All of which is to say, when they get down in the red zone, which in these toss-up games is probably where things are going to be decided, it might not be a Pop Douglas and Stephon Diggs game, right? Like they'll get you from 20 to 20. And then inside the red zone, I think this will be Boutte. I think it'll be Matt Collins, and it'll be Hunter Henry as these guys that kind of go up and get it. And who wins those battles where Jeremy Chin might be better suited as the Raiders safety could be where this game kind of hinges on. If I'm looking at how does this play out, we might just have to find out inside the 20 or inside the 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, where the run game can come in too. And I would expect, if it's Stevenson or even if it's, Henderson, maybe that's where you get a little more of, some of the passes to the flat and things that we see inside the red zone a little bit. Maybe some of the Drake May run game inside the red zone.
Great.
That's one thing I would like to see also. So yeah, I think there are a number of different ways. And if we just see like a little bit of each of them, I think there's enough change ups in the Patriots kind of arsenal that I think that is a good way to attack.
Here's one more, and he's less change up than just like straight gas right on the corner. Trevin Henderson, right? Like this is a guy you and I talked about the pony personnel and two back, and Ben Solak threw the other day that these are trends that people we'll see develop this year as a kind of a defining part of the early season. And we'll see, because you wrote very well and referenced this article, and I read it after we finished our last episode about like, hey, everyone loves a pony. Okay. It's like if you actually gave your daughter a pony for her birthday and then you had to live with it a week later and you're like, okay, someone forgot to shovel the shit this morning and now things are really a problem and a mess in the backyard. This is not great. Trayvon Henderson and Rhamondre Stevenson, I can tell you, are going to see the field together for multiple snaps on Sunday. Like I would bet almost anything on it. Could be in the red zone, could be between the 20s, whatever. Henderson is a mismatch against any Raiders linebacker. And I say this before he's even taken a snap. How the Patriots not only utilize that, but I think you talk about adjustments as we did in the beginning. Leverage that speed and the threat, because Raiders are well aware of this. And Chip Kelly worked with him, obviously, last year at Ohio State. As a decoy is something that's really interesting to me, because you'll have to bet that the Raiders see and respect the threat, right? But that could open up things right away, where if you want to be a step ahead, you go, okay, whenever they see him on the field, maybe they go dime or they go, little nickel or whatever. We're going to send him on a wheel, but we're really looking for the post to Boutte behind it, knowing the attention that Henderson's getting over there, because they'll look to him for explosives in addition to regular runs and whatever else they want to do when him and Stevenson are on the field. Yeah.
And then there's a chance the wheel's open. There's just a chance that he's running right past whoever's trying to cover him on the wheel. And that's how pony personnel works. You have to have that stretch the field element, and if everything's just too condensed. And if you are saying that they might be trying that out, like, I'll believe it, because he is the type of player that can push in that vertical element. So if that is something that can open up, like that is something where it's almost impossible to defend if you are using it in the correct way.
Okay, so we started with Max Crosby is the biggest problem, best player in the field against the Patriots' weakest point. And I wrote earlier this week, hey, this season opener, most anticipated, least telling, is still going to be more telling than most because Josh McDaniels will show you how he problem solves. And this is supposed to be an upgrade from last year in terms of the adjustments in the game planning. We'll see how that goes. Given everything we just covered, how do you think this goes for the Patriots offense on Sunday?
I think that, like we said, I think they have enough options where I think they're going to be able to find what works at some point and be able to take it to the Raiders defense. And I think there's, Max Crosby is probably going to get his, right? But as long as it doesn't completely derail what they want to do, I do think there are enough options where I think the Patriots are going to be able to take advantage of some of the weak points of this Raiders defense, which I think are just a few too many for the Raiders to really have a strong defense to feel confident about. So I do think this is going to be something where the Patriots are able to put up some points.
Yeah, I agree. And again, week one, who knows? But there are opportunities that are numerous enough and big enough for them to seize on if they really come in and don't take a holding penalty in their two of their first three drives or a strip sack or whatever, which of course is prone to happen because it's week one. All right, let's get to the Patriots defense versus the Raiders offense. This might be even more fascinating of a matchup considering the talent that will be on the field and the fastballs and then the counters and the counters to the counters that you're trying to anticipate, not to mention the health piece of this without Christian Gonzalez, who probably would have made our lives a lot simpler by shadowing Brock Bowers. But before we get deeper into that, I want to remind the folks, if you're not playing PrizePicks, this is another mistake that you're making. Follow Dan Pizzuta and play PrizePicks because last night the Cowboys and Eagles play, it was the clearest, easiest prediction of the world that Saquon Barkley was going to at some point run for a touchdown against one of the worst run defenses in football. And he did that. And if you were playing PrizePicks, you would have found that Saquon Barkley had a stat line provided by them of half a touchdown. And all you have to do is pick more than half a touchdown for Saquon Barkley, find another player and another stat that you thought would go more or less. That's a lineup right there. 2 players, 2 stats, 2 projections by you. You lock it in and you can win up to, if you want to do up to 6 stats, 1,000 times your money. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy for a good reason, and I think you should join in. I do this for baseball, for basketball. It's very simple. Take the stuff that we're talking about here in the pod, because I won't, not for football, but use it for your own good. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, Patriots defense and Raiders offense. Where are you starting with this?
Yeah, how do you defend the tight ends? I think that's it. It starts there because it's not just how you defend the tight ends in general in coverage, but this is I think the one thing we can look at about what the Raiders did last year is this was a team that ran the highest rate of 12 personnel in the league. They were at about 35%. This was also a team that passed at the 3rd highest rate in 12 personnel. So again, how New England goes about that, is it base? Are you trying to go big on big? And if it's that, are the Raiders just going to run over you because they have Ashton Genty that they can put behind that? If you're trying to run out in nickel, do you have the coverage defenders to be running with Bowers and Michael Mayer with smaller bodies? I don't know. So how are you able to just go at the tight ends and then kind of the chess match that goes after that? Because I think there's so many possibilities of how the coverage is, how the Raiders are going to try to manipulate whatever the bodies are on the defensive side. Like, I think just everything on this side of the ball is going to come down to how those 2 tight ends are used and how New England is choosing to match up with them and, physically how they can match up with them.
This is, like I said, on so many different levels, an interesting matchup. And I think right away, the first quarter is going to be super telling because if you're the Raiders and you're looking at a Patriots defense, it's a lot of different parts and it's starting Caleb on Chase on one edge. And you've got linebackers, Christian Ellis sometimes hit or miss and his play diagnosis, relatively green safeties. You want to run the ball. You spend a top 10 pick on a running back. you have a big offensive line. And Pete Carroll is a coach who has come from the old school, and he might have evolved his defensive scheme to go from traditional Seattle 3 to more 2 high structures. But he wants to run the ball, and he wants to play defense. And if the Raiders are able to do that in the first quarter, they will kind of set the terms of engagement in the oldest, cliche possible way, run to set up the play action. And if you are then contending with Genty getting 5 yards a carry, and then Craig Woodson and Jalen Hawkins have to worry about coming in to contribute to the run fit. Well, also Brock Bowers might go right by you down the seam. You've got a world of problems. So how well the Patriots are able to stop the run in the first quarter, I think is going to set the table for what the Raiders can or can't do later. And that's where you want to be a step ahead. Whether or not they can do it, I don't know. Milton Williams is a run defender and a limited sample last year in Philadelphia. Not very good. Christian Barmore basically didn't play football last year. Okay. Great players. I'm confident in Spillane. But it's one thing to do it here and there in training camp, but like for a series or 2 in the preseason, it's another to show up and be ready against a team that philosophically is probably coming in here, especially at the start, to ram the ball down your throat.
Yeah, and I think the thing about that too is like we haven't seen exactly what this Chip Kelly run game is going to be. I'm probably going to assume it's not going to be a straight up run it down your throat in a way that we've seen like power football. This is going to be a lot of, misdirection and a lot of, other just wild run concepts that we're going to see that are going to really stress this defensive line and the second level. So that's what I'm expecting also if they are able to run the ball. And I think that's one of the more fascinating things. Like we still don't really know what the Chip Kelly professional offense is going to look like. I think when you kind of look at how he evolved at UCLA and especially at Ohio State last year, there were some really fun run concepts that he had, really evolving the looks. And, it's not the same thing of where he was the Eagles and the 49ers, where we're going to run 4 plays and we're just going to run them as fast as possible. And you're not going to be able to stop them until eventually NFL defensive coaches were able to. This is a completely different philosophy that we're going to see. And so I just think when you have, the Raiders are interesting because they do have 2 guys who I think just can be complete game wreckers. And they're so different in how they're able to. You can win in the pass game with Brock Bowers. You can win in the run game with Ashton Genty. If one of those is working, I expect them to just continue to spam that for the rest of the game.
Yes. And I think that's where if you're the Patriots, like we talk about all the unknown, and the unknown is fun because everything's on the table for what we might see Sunday. And it could be, like you're talking this very multiple run game and the counters. And I wouldn't discount Geno Smith getting involved, by the way, especially in the red zone, some zone read stuff or just some very basic concepts. But the point is, if you're the Patriots, you have to start with players and personnel over plays. Because, whatever the Raiders want to do, whether Pete Carroll gets his way and his message through of, hey, run the ball, this is how I want to operate as a team in our first game, or Chip Kelly is given the keys to the car and just speeds away and goes up tempo and wants to sling the ball over the yard because he's like, why wouldn't I against Craig Woodson and maybe Marcus Jones and Alex Austin? We don't know. But inevitably, they're going to return to Brock Bowers and they're going to return to Ashton Genty. So whatever schemes or focuses, I think even if you're baited a little bit, the Raiders are going to come back to those guys because they're just so far away, like we talked about with Max Crosby, more threatening than anyone else on the roster. And not one hand up, 2 hands up for being in the Jacoby Myers fan club, okay? And the Patriots still have a lot of respect for Jacoby Myers. He's not going to kill you. Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers. So what are your solutions here? I mentioned it 4 times with green safeties and an unknown scheme to kind of handle those 2.
I don't know. Hope for the best. I really do. I really better than that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you have to try some things early, and they might fail, but I think you just kind of have to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Because again, like I said, if you're confident in your base defense, which I think is going to be tough, you're leaving yourself vulnerable in the pass game. And if you're running nickel, and again, without Christian Gonzalez, which is just huge. Like, I don't think, it obviously Patriots fans will know, but I don't think you can overstate how important he is to just opening up everything else for the defense by just being on the field and locking down something.
Do you think it's that big for this game though? Like I want to be clear. I'm not discrediting or disagreeing like how good Christian Gonzalez is and what you're saying. Like he'll unlock. You can run anything in your playbook if he's on the field. But when I look at this, like, okay, if their biggest threats are a tight end or running back, you should still be able to find some solutions. No.
Yes, so I was still going to get here because either you could put Christian Gonzalez on Brock Bowers. Also, the receiver that we haven't talked about for the Raiders right now, who I'm actually fairly interested in, is Dante Thornton, who's a rookie, who's a 4th round pick, going to be their starting X, it looks like. And this is a guy who just incredible physical skills. He is 6'4", ran a 4.3, and there's just not many players who can do that. There's that size and speed combination is just not common. You look at what he came from the Tennessee offense last year, which is it's a fake the offense. If you look at like what his receiving chart is, I've posted it on Blue Sky before when he was coming out of the draft. It's not real. There's like some screens. Any throw that he had between like 15 to 20 yards in the middle of the field turned into a touchdown, just because he was like running a post. He was faster than everybody. And so he can do that, but also he's been starting to do some like real wide receiver things in training camp and in the preseason, which is I think why he's now in this starting position. But if you don't have a corner if you're so focused on stopping what's going to happen in the middle of the field, whether it's Bowers or Genty, you have this guy on the outside against the starting outside cornerback, whoever that's going to be in this game, that you don't know if you're going to be able to run with this guy. I think the Raiders are going to take advantage of that too, try to test some throws deep. And I think like that's kind of one of those things, have a play action shot and some of that stuff. So I think having Gonzalez there, you can either, know that Bowers is going to be covered, or you could have thrown him on Thornton and think that you have that at least handled while you throw every other resource against Bowers and Genty. So I think, not having him again, it's not like you're not covering a Jamar Chase in this game without Christian Gonzalez, but I do think it still has a pretty big impact based on what you're able to shift resources in against the pass too.
Yeah, it also gets to the point, right, of you've got your early down calls and how you're going to handle that, which is obviously going to be tilted more towards Genty, which then if you're the Raiders, you're inclined to take those shots to Thornton because you're getting a basic coverage picture. It's easier to use play action. But if the Patriots get to third down, I will tell you, despite not having Christian Gonzalez, I'm more confident in their ability to create some havoc there, not just because the Raiders offensive line is like meh, and you've got good rushers, but I think the sim pressures and the way that Vrabel has historically gotten creative in those situations is really encouraging. The issue is, can you get to third down?
Yep.
And have that third down be 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 or longer. And that's the issue. Trey Tucker's another guy that I'm going to keep my eye on because they've had his represented at practice as far as a scout team, or Zepton Chisholm has simulated Trey Tucker. And then Jack Beck, which is, just a draft crush who got away, much like your Darian Porter. So there's a lot there. I think the answer is, though, to keep this as simple as possible, is you just have to win up front. And that will negate not just the run game, but Geno Smith's ability to hold on to the ball and survey his options and look for that, and maybe even discourage Chip from calling longer developing pass plays, because he's going to react, as we just said, to whatever he sees in the first quarter and move off of that. If Christian Barmore and Milt Williams are effing shit up, like you got a problem, and their whole game plan might go out the window. But that's why the first quarter of first down is going to be so important. So all this said, I don't think we've really missed anybody, have we? I mean, Michael Mayer, I think, is underrated, and that could be another problem. But honestly, look, if you're doubling Brock Bowers and you've got a good handle on Ashton Genty, sometimes you'll just have to eat it in the red zone. Are there any other guys that we have not mentioned that could be kind of key here?
No, I think that's probably, what they're going to be going, because again, this isn't a deep receiving core, which I think is why I think Michael Mayer, his most important aspect is he's good enough to be on the field in place of one of those wide receivers, because that's kind of when teams get themselves into trouble in 12 or wanting to run 12, is usually the second tight end is not as good of a receiving threat as your third wide receiver. But on the Raiders, that it probably is true. He is. So that's why they can, sit in 12 in the way they do. The one thing is like the pressure is going to matter. Geno Smith, though, is like that's like he was raised in the darkness, right? He was born in it. Like
Yeah.
that's what he's dealt with, especially the past few years in Seattle. So
Dan, I don't
again,
know if you know, I have a decent Bane impression that I unleashed here on the podcast. So I'm tempted to do it again. I'm not prepared in the same way when I was making fun of Elliott Wolf saying,
yeah. So
Josh. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So like obviously pressure is going to impact any quarterback. But I think Gino, even if there is pressure, is probably still going to be a better situation than he was in like all last season. So I think like that is the thing. So if we kind of look at like how this is going to impact, I think the Raiders are going to be able to put up some points too. So I do think this is going to be a game where it's the adjustments are going to matter, because I don't know how many defensive stops there are reliably going to be in this game overall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Gino's also underrated. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like, Patriots fans only have to go back 12 months to week 2, which again should have been a win if not for some bad clock management on Gerard Mayo's part. But Geno Smith still goes 33 of 44 for, if it wasn't 300 yards, it was close, and a touchdown. It just carved them up. And that was a kitchen sink game from them on third down. Like, you talk about throwing everything and spinning the dial at sim pressures, and you can bring, anything that you want, all the exotics. He had no problem with that, because this is 34, 35-year-old Geno Smith. He's seen it all. Like you said, raised in the darkness. I'm going to resist the Bane impression this time. Not a top 5 quarterback, not top 8, probably not top 10, but a problem if you're the Patriots. And that, again, you just have to solve with pressure and by winning up front. Okay, it is time for a game prediction. Who you got and why?
I think I'm still going to take the Patriots because I just think I like what they can potentially do on offense just a little more. I think they'll have a few more answers, but I do expect this to be a high scoring, close game. And that is kind of where my prediction is. Like, that's where I feel most comfortable in my prediction. Not so much the winner, but I do think the Patriots just have just enough on offense that I think they have a little more explosive firepower that I think is going to potentially give them the advantage.
Final score?
Ooh, 30-27.
Wow. I know it's in recent history, but I got to tell you, off the top of my head, I cannot remember the Patriots putting up 30 points the last time that it happened. This is like how beat down you are sometimes. As the last 4 or 5 years, we had a great 20-year run, don't get me wrong. In New England, watching this team, 30-27. Oh my God. I would skip out of the press box if that's the football that I get on Sunday. I'm so excited. You are never going to look better than you are just now making that pick, because I'm going with the Raiders, and I don't love it. This is a toss-up game, but when you look at the offense, and I agree there's more firepower there, there's also a lot more reliance on rookies, and it's Will Campbell, and it's Henderson, and Jared Wilson, and maybe, but probably not a lot of Kyle Williams. And that instability or unpredictability, the rookie roller coaster, has me worried. And again, I've already written, this is the most unpredictable season opener I've ever covered, probably in Patriots history. So whatever happens, I'm not going to be surprised. But if I have to bank on something, I'm going to bank on the team with the 2 best players in the field, Max Crosby and Brock Bowers. And probably for now, though I don't think this will be the case at the end of the year, the better quarterback. So give me the Raiders 23-19, which of course will be spit back at me as soon as the Patriots pull away 40-10. That's good. One more thing. This is not in the rundown. Bill Belichick is supposed to be part of the 6-pack, and somehow I just blanked. Banning Patriot scouts from North Carolina practices just because F you, Bob Kraft. Dan Pizzuto's take is what?
I might be doing the Patriot scouts a service. It might be to their benefit.
Yeah. That was something on Monday. And there's just a no-win situation as a media member in New England opening your mouth about Bill Belichick, because it's like, oh, you're just trying to, kick dirt on him at this point, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've been very clear about my feelings about Bill. And even when he left, say thank you before goodbye, all this different stuff. But you get your pants dropped 48-14 on national television. But ESPN is still celebrating you as you're giving up your 4th touchdown. All these kids have gotten who came to North Carolina so they can make the NFL, by the way, and learn from the greatest coach, underscored, bolded, greatest coach of all time, have only gotten that 34-point ass kicking. And now a limited scope and time with scouts who from other teams, by the way, have also been limited, not totally shut out, because you have to flip double middle birds to the Patriots Southeast scout who's making pennies and traveling the road 300 plus days a year, by the way. Just ridiculous. But I'm with you. They play Charlotte this week, and then it's like UCF and Richmond, and I don't think they're going undefeated, but that's enough about Bill. All right. Anything else that we missed from this Sunday? Where can we find you? What are you up to? What's going on?
Just follow on some socials, which I think we already plugged. Blue Sky, Dan Pizzuta. It's Dan Pizzuta pretty much everywhere. Been doing some writing, popping up on a couple places, and so I'll just be posting that. If you keep an eye on socials, they'll all pop up.
Awesome. Find him on Blue Sky. Find him elsewhere. Dan Pizzuta. Always a pleasure. I'm gonna bug you again, and I can't wait to talk some more football. All right.
Absolutely, always a pleasure.
Cool. All right, here comes Rhamondre Stevenson, and then I will see everybody Monday night live with the Patriots Raiders film breakdown. All right, it's only fitting we have the first 4-minute drill of the season on the Pass Interference Podcast with Rhamondre Stevenson, who would be driving a real 4-minute drill on the field behind us here at Gillette. But the only rule as a second-time guest in the 4-minute drill is this. You can't run out the clock in this segment. We're going to go rapid-fire questions. We got to answer everything. It's a mix of football, non-football, and we'll start the clock right now. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Last year, when we had you on the show, you told us Rhamondre Stevenson breaks up with someone by ghosting them.
I'm not. I'll just ghost you, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that's disrespectful.
I know.
Have you grown up since?
A little bit. I kind of had this conversation not too long ago with someone. So, yeah, I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying not to ghost people.
Was that quick? Was it long to go all right?
It was quick. I'll say it was quick.
All right, good. Favorite TV show?
Martin.
Current or former teammate you would love to truck stick the most?
Dang, I'm letting the time run.
No, you're good.
Let's go with Kenneth Murray.
Kenneth Murray. Wow, we're going back to Oklahoma days. All right. You might see him on the schedule this year. Oh, no, he's in Dallas.
Yeah,
all right, true or false? I have experienced a normal NFL season so far in my career.
I mean, what's normal, though?
It's
I'll say yes. I'll say yes.
All right. In 15 years from now, what is Rhamondre Stevenson doing?
Owning a lot of real estate and commercial properties.
Where's that?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. All right. It might be my new apartment. All right. Situation. Shit's going down. This could be at a club. It could be outside of a flower shop. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But you get one teammate who's going to have your back. Who's that teammate going to be?
Christian Barmore.
Christian Barmore? Okay. Yeah. Same situation. Shit's going down. This could be a flower shop. It could be a bar. It could be wherever. Mm-hmm. It could be the driveway. What's the teammate you least want to have your back?
Let's go Terrell Jennings.
Terrell Jennings?
Yeah.
Why is that? He's the locker right next to you.
I know, that's my boy. I'm just playing. I call him soft all the time, so we're just going to go with that one.
All right, that works. Poor Terrell. Fill in the blank. I am better at blank than the rest of my teammates.
I'm better at Call of Duty than the rest of my teammates.
Really? Who's putting up a fight in that, though?
I have no clue. They don't want to see me on the sticks.
Really?
Yeah, not in Call of Duty. Everything else, they got me. 2K, Madden, I can't compete.
Yeah?
Duty, that's where it's at, though, yeah.
All right. Fill in the blank again. People would be surprised to know that Drake May blank.
Is cool.
Come on. He's a quarterback. He's got some swag. He just turned 23. The guy's married, multimillionaire. We know he plays golf. We know he's got better command.
He's a hooper. He knows how to play basketball.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, yep.
Okay.
North Carolina this offseason.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Tell us more about that, because we've all seen the high school clips.
Yeah.
What went down?
Well, really, it was me and Pop against Kendrick Bourne and Drake May. And they end up winning, but it was close. It was super close. I'm not a hooper. Pop is a hooper, but we held our own.
What was the last shot?
I think Drake May dunked it.
Anybody get posterized?
We were doing the posters. I ain't gonna lie, me and Pop. It was on a shorter hoop though.
Okay, thank you. I was like, there's no way. Much love to Pop, who's also been on the show. That man is 5'8".
Me and Pop was throwing alley oops like LeBron and D Wade out there.
This sounds like the mini hoop in like my office. We're talking about like 9 feet outside.
Yeah, it's like 9 feet.
Okay, that's cool. Last time you cried, if ever, watching a movie?
Nah, I don't cry watching movies.
Never.
Yeah.
Did you know Antonio Gibson will get a good cry on during the Notebook?
Oh, well, I could see that.
You can?
Yeah.
He told that here in the show. All right, we got 30 seconds left. Any new touchdown celebrations? Big fan of the kiss, blowing to the crowd. Are we sticking with that?
Yeah, I'm going to have that one, but you guys going to see something new this year.
Oh.
Yep.
Any preview?
No preview. You're going to see it, though. Hopefully Sunday.
All right.
fill in the blank. Of all the running backs in the league, I wish I had this player's blank skill. Could be speed, shiftiness, vision, power, whatever. Like this back.
Easy. Travion Henderson speed.
Really?
Yeah, for
Much
sure.
props to the rookie. He hasn't even played it down yet.
Yeah, he's fast. I can see that.
All right, here we are. We just crossed 4 minutes, but this is the question we're going to end every interview with. Instead of least favorite media question, which we did last year, give me a teammate I should interview next or sometime during the season, and one question I should ask them.
Pop Douglas, and just ask him where he get all his jokes from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pop Douglas, jokester. Rhamondre Stevenson, thanks for coming back on the show.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you Sunday against the Raiders.